Do you find yourself checking the news all the time? Or maybe you even have notifications turned on your phone from news apps so that as soon as there's a new news story, you're alerted to it. Well, here's why you need to stop checking the news. So let's kind of do our time machine and go back to a time before smartphones, before devices, before we were even staring at screens all the time, and how we actually got our news. Well, it would probably be the morning news before you left for the day. And then you might pick up the news again at, say, 10 o'clock that night, or possibly even the 6 o'clock news. But you would have this big, huge gap in the day where you wouldn't know what the latest news was. That used to be the norm. Now, fast forward to the present day, and of course, we now have our mobile phones. They are always with us. They're like carrying a computer around with us. And one of the many problems with this is that we now have access to the news whenever we want it. We can know the news every second of the day if we really wanted to. Now, of course, that means that we could get alerted to when there is a breaking story. Our phone could literally shout at us and tell us when there is a breaking story. Or it could mean that we're refreshing news apps and looking at them constantly. So first of all, why do we do that? Why do we want to be aware of the news all the time? Well, there are a few reasons. One of the most obvious ones is procrastination. We're avoiding doing something else. So let's check the news and make ourselves feel like we're doing something productive because we're keeping up to date with what's going on in the world. But mainly, as with most things on our phone, and the reason that we access things on our phone too much, it comes down to our brains releasing dopamine, the pleasure hormone, the pleasure chemical, the thing that tells our brain, keep doing it, please keep doing it, I need more of this. And that might have come from reading a gory story that raises our adrenaline or getting breaking news before anyone else. It's going to give us that hit of dopamine. And so our brain then associates knowing the news with dopamine release. And so it's chasing that dopamine all the time. It's wanting more, more, and more. Now, of course, there is nothing wrong with keeping up to date with what is going on in the world, but doing it multiple times a day and that news following us round and being alerted the second something happens, it's just not really great for our mental well-being. The reality is that most of the news is negative. It's very rare that people are getting alerted, getting those notifications coming through for positive news. Very rare, sadly. So most of the time it is something negative, something that makes us feel sad or angry or fearful or annoyed. And the result of that is that we are actually seeking out these negative emotions throughout the day. And of course, when we fill our brains with these negative emotions, it can be very hard to raise that negativity into positivity, to look for the good in the world, for our brains to actually think that, life is good, because we're filling it all the time with news stories that say the opposite, that say, what is this world? What is all this bad thing that are going on? And the things that we actually, as well, we have zero control over. So how do we then start to kind of break that habit of having the news constantly with us? Well, the first one is a very simple one, and it is turn off those notifications from those news apps. If you're not yet ready to get rid of the news apps completely, step one is to turn off those notifications so you're not alerted every time there's a breaking story. Because I tell you now, you do not need to know straight away. There's absolutely no reason you need to know that right now instead of in a couple of hours' time. Step two, of course, would be deleting those news apps from your phone completely. If that feels too much, though, start with step one, get rid of those notifications, and then set yourself a date for which you're going to get rid of the apps. Or you might just want to go cold turkey and get rid of them completely, reminding yourself that you can always access the news through your phone browser. And then step three, when you are at the point of only accessing it through the browser, but you're still doing it really regularly, is to take a pause. So when you go to think, I'm just going to go on BBC News, Sky News, whatever your news service of choice is, and check what the latest news is, hold yourself back. Maybe set a timer for 5 minutes so that you've got to wait. Or even just telling yourself, actually, I'm going to do this first and then I will go on to the news. Now, if you keep expanding that time that you're giving yourself, so the next time you're like, actually, I'm going to wait 10 minutes, I'm going to wait half an hour, I'll check the news in an hour, then eventually you will find that you're stretching that time that you're going without looking at the news. And by news, I include the Daily Mail celebrity showbiz news in this, which I know many people are addicted to as well. So let me know in the comments, do you find yourself checking the news far more often than you would like? Do you find it's one of the biggest ways in which you use your phone to constantly be plugged into the, let's face it, negativity that is going on our planet? And is there a reason for this? Ask yourself, do you really need to be checking the news as often as you are? And unless you are a top journalist that is needing to be on the constant, plugged in, knowing exactly what's happening in the world, I would hazard a guess that you really do not need to know straight away. So give it a go. Let me know in the comments what action you're going to take to reduce your news consumption. And if you do want to put your phone down more and reduce your phone use, then please do check out my Reduce Your Phone Use short course, which will definitely help. See you later.